All right, thank you for joining me, everyone. My name is Gabby Vero, and I'm your solutions consultant with LexisNexis. So today we'll be covering Lexis Advance and talking about the content that's in your plan, and I've included a brief PowerPoint that covers what you have included. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is your National Primary Enhanced. So with that, you have access to the Shepherd Citation Services. You're going to see Shepherds for any of your cases and your statutes, as well as nationwide federal and state cases, federal and state statutes and legislation, as well as agency and administrative materials. You'll also find within the secondary content all of our law reviews, restatements, the ALI ABA course of study materials, access to dictionaries, Lexis Web, and then we're going to have national briefs, pleadings, and motions. So when you're running your searches from that red search box and looking at the different categories that you have, there's a section for briefs, pleadings, and motions within that, and you're actually able to pull up the original source image so as to see how these briefs, for example, are filed with the court and how they look. So instead of it being just that Lexis text, you'll also be able to see those original source images. For your comprehensive secondary materials, we've included the Florida legislative bill history, as well as an entire Florida practice library. So within that, you'll also find Florida Bar CLE forms, as well as Florida forms. There's going to be a ton of news here. A lot of people have asked about how to set different alerts in the realm of news. So we'll be talking about that today. As well as you'll have your West jurisprudence. So the ALR and the AMJUR are easily on your Lexis Advance as well. For the Federal Deluxe Library that we've included, when you're running your searches, you're going to have some secondary materials for the federal jurisdiction that are going to come up. So that's why we've included that library. This page here is a little hard to read for those that are sitting here, but it is all of your Florida practice secondary materials, and this is going to be found through Explore Content on the Lexis Advance page, but I've included it here. Also, you have access to the Florida jurisprudence, which you'll access just by typing in that red search box, Florida jurisprudence, and being able to click on that source or get to that table of contents. This next slide just talks about the more premium menus which we've included in your subscription. The first being a 50-state survey, so this provides an instant comparison of states' treatment of topical issues linked to governing provisions on Lexis and prefaced by an examination of federal context and state themes. So if I need to access these 50-state surveys, you just type in 50-state surveys in the red search box and you can pull up that source. However, it's going to be limited to the different overhead topics that we have there. Next, you'll have our Florida Circuit Court orders. So when you're running your searches, you're able to actually come across these. So when we're looking at our searches and we're narrowing to our different courts, we're going to see Supreme Court, maybe all the Florida DCAs, as well as the Florida trial court orders. And then lastly, we also have Litigation Profile Suite. So when you're doing your basic research, you're going to be on Lexis Advanced Research, but we also have included a more specialty tool called our Litigation Profile Suite, in which you're able to choose an expert witness, attorney, or judge by just typing in their name. And then through that, you'll be able to pull up transcripts, CVs, jury verdict settlements they've been involved in, depositions, testimonial challenges, any briefs, pleadings, and motions, as well as cases, dockets, jury instructions, admin materials, directories, news, secondary publications, and also Lexis Web, which we'll definitely talk about when we're covering Lexis Advance as well. This last slide here just talks about our Lexis services and support. So I'm Gabby Vero. I'm your dedicated solutions consultant. My email is gabby.vero@lexisnexis.com, as well as my cell phone number, that 904-200-8236. And I'm here to assist as long as you guys have Lexis. We also have a 24/7 attorney reference support customer support line, and that's at 1-800-543-6862. Then we're going to jump right into Lexis Advance here. So this is going to be your Lexis Advance homepage. It's called our landing page, and this red box up here is called our universal search box. So within that box, I can type in the name of a case, I can type in a citation, I can type in natural language or terms and connectors. It's going to recognize any of that within our red search box. Now, normally when you all log in, it's going to say search everything up here in that red search box. And for most of you, you probably aren't going to necessarily be searching everything, or you're going to want to search in Florida immediately when you log in. Getting some nods? Okay. So I'd like to first talk about how to change your settings. So if I'm going under More, and I'm going to go to Settings, I'm going to click on Lexis Advanced Research. And you'll see here 4 different items that we can choose from. The very bottom one is probably the most important, and you're telling it to retain search filters for future sessions. So as I've logged in, if I was just last in Florida, when I re-log in, it's going to stick to Florida. For example, also, if I was just looking in the Florida statutes or maybe some admin codes or maybe looking in Minnesota, it's going to stick Minnesota instead of that search everything. Also, you have the ability to suggest last used search terms and filters for all searches within a session. So if I'm constantly searching for illegal gambling today and I'm looking in Florida, every time I click on my back button while I'm still logged in, that will stick in my red search box. So if you like that or don't like that, the option is here, number 3. You can have it also recognize and use legal entities when performing a search, and include legal phrase equivalents with the search. So the legal phrase equivalents would be, for example, if I ran a search for dog bite, checking that first box will also give me results that say bitten by dog. So it's going to recognize that that might be how different cases have that written. Any questions on your settings here? All right. This option here for your results, you can display search results with this category first. So if you're normally going into cases, you can leave cases up here. Snapshot is going to give you 3 of all of these different categories. I don't know many people that use that one, but if you are constantly working in statutes first or working in news or secondary materials first, you can choose what comes back when you run that search. I usually leave mine at cases. At the very bottom, it'll say Save Changes to Settings and Close if you want it to retain those settings. So besides our universal red search box up here, we also have our Explore Content box, and this is new. It came out a few months ago, and it's the best way to find exactly what's in your plan. So I'm going to go to State and click on Florida. And from here, you'll find all the different cases that are in Florida, the statutes and legislation. And every time you see this little stacker view, this button will take you to the table of contents for that item, for that source, as well as these little info buttons. These tell you about the source itself. So the publisher, the coverage, the frequency, how often it's updated, and a little description, or a rather large description, about the source itself. For example, our statutes go back to 1991. So clicking on those info buttons lets you know, does it exist in this source? We also have our administrative code for Florida on this page, as well as admin materials. Brings us to our secondary. I'm going to click on all Florida treatises. This is just giving you a brief list of what we have as far as your secondaries. From this page, this is that slide from my PowerPoint that lists all those Florida treatises that we have, or secondary guides. The Florida CLE, these are the Florida Bar publications in parentheses. And from this page of Explore Content, you can choose to search all the sources on this page or actually just select the sources. So I can type in some terms in my red search box and maybe choose to look in Flodger, and maybe how about adoption and paternity. So as I'm choosing these, they're stacking up here, and I can see what sources I'm going to be searching in. So it gives you the ability to add the sources easily. You know they're out there. And you can easily exit these out if you've changed your mind. I'm going to go back into that Florida Explore Content page. You have Florida Forms, Florida Briefs, Pleadings, and Motions, Florida Jury Instructions, Jury Verdict Settlements, Florida News. So here's all your Florida. Now, if I'm back on my home page, so I'm clicking on that Lexis Advanced Research button, it actually takes me to my home page. You can also do something like jury instructions. So now maybe if I'm talking about the content itself, and now I can see all the different states and federal to compare them with. So again, you can select sources from this page. If I wanted to compare certain language that I'm going to run a search on, and maybe Florida versus Kentucky, you can do that from this Explore Content page. So that's by content type. You have it by federal, by state, and by practice area. Any questions on Explore Content? Okay. Your history on Lexis is going to save for 90 days. So that's the difference between Lexis and West, to let you guys know. Your history box here will break it down into your searches, your documents, and your shepherds. And this gives you a brief synopsis of what you did. You can click on View All History to see everything. And your history is also going to live up here in this black experience bar that's always going to remain on every page. So if I'm currently looking at a statute, I can still navigate to my history. So I'm going to click on View All History. And this is this list view. So I can actually search within all of my history. So maybe I want to see when I pulled up that breed case. So I can type in breed, for example. And I've searched for it 249 times. And it gives me the dates I looked for it. You also have the breakdown by the date that you looked or the type of search that you did. So whether I was doing a document view, a legal search, a shepherd search, table of contents view. So you have that breakdown. And again, this is our list. But within history, we also have a research map. Research map is great if you're constantly interrupted or you're trying to find out, how did I replicate that search that I was doing earlier? So for example, I'm going to scroll down here. Search and seizure. I do a lot of searching. So for example, on Monday, I did a search for search and seizure in quotes. The magnifying glass lets me know that it was a search. The category I looked at was cases, and I got 1,140 results. And then I added some filters here, so they're in blue. The first filter was the appeals court, and this is in Georgia, so they don't have a breakdown by DCAs like Florida does. But I also narrowed to the last 16 years, so it went from 916 cases to 239. And then it looks like I removed the appeals court. But if at any time that you want to replicate this search from my research map, I'm clicking on this little, looks like a home plate to me for like a baseball theme. But I can actually rerun this search. The benefit of rerunning it is if I did this search maybe 2 months ago and I applied these filters, if I rerun the search, I'm going to actually pull up anything new that happened between then and now. So here's that 239 cases. And I still have all of my filters that I had before, so now I can continue researching, pick up where I left off. So that's your research map, and it's up here in history, and I can even get to it from my history box. Any questions on history? Yes.
For 90 days, is that if you don't go back in and do a search? So that, if you did, like you said, did something 2 months ago and then now all of a sudden you're using it again, is that the 90 days starting over again?
Yep, if you're rerunning that search before the 90 days comes up, you can rerun it and then it'll have a new 90-day length on it. For any of those searches also, if it's a search that you're constantly doing, and we're going to talk about folders next, was my next idea. But for any of these, if I click on it from my research map, you have the option to save the search to a folder. The benefit of folders is that unlike history, which only lasts for 90 days, if I place something in a folder, I can access it indefinitely. It has no expiration. So if this is something that you're doing folders either by agency or by issue or topic that you're looking for, if you save your search to a folder, you can access it later, so past that 90 days and even past the research map time. So.
How'd you
I was in my research map. So I'm in history. You could go to list, go to research map even. And from any of these, the options will be rerun search, select search to compare results, save search to folder, create an alert. So you can actually create an alert. So I want to be notified anytime this new search string has something else that comes up. Mm-hmm. So now jumping into our folders from our home page, I have my 5 most recent folders. I can click on View All Folders here, or I can access folders from my More dropdown. So all of my folders, and I have far too many, but the numbers next to these correspond with the number of items in each folder. And if I click on a folder, we're going to click on Department of Transportation's. You'll see here I have some different cases, and you'll also see I have some notes. I'm also sharing these folders with other people. Are you sharing any folders, your cases? Okay. So up here, when I've selected a folder, I can go into Actions, and it'll say to share the folder. This one's already being shared. And go into a shorter one. So here I can have share folder, and if I type in someone's name, so it's going to be within your subscription group or your contract group. So these are all Lexis people that I'm typing in here. When I press add to share, I get 2 options: to make them an editor so they can contribute to my folder, or make them just a viewer so they can just view what I have. So if you're collaborating with someone, you can create these folders. And if you make someone an editor, it doesn't mean that they can delete things in your folder. They can only really add. Something else to do with your folders would be to update all the shepherd signals. So if you had multiple documents in here and you wanted to see, is this statute or case still good law, or has the shepherds changed? You'll see here, the last time I looked at these cases was yesterday. So if I go up to my actions, update all shepherd signals, Lexis is going to actually run this search and update everything for me. So it'll say as of May 18th. Any questions on folders? And from here I can even download everything. So I can check what I've put in a folder and choose my different exporting options if now I need to print or now I need to email these to someone else. And you can see now it's been updated as of May 18th. Let's talk about some favorites. In order to start setting some favorites, if there are some sources that you're commonly going to, I can just start by typing them in my red search box. So if I type in Florida, this word wheel is already prompting me with some sources. So if I didn't go to explore content, I could just start here. And if I wanted to get to those annotated statutes, I can click on my table of contents. And this will be grayed out. And once you select it, it will create this as a favorite. So now this will appear in my favorites box. Also, you'll see several other stars within the statutes, or any table of contents for that matter. And you can set as a favorite certain sections. So if I wanted all of the evidence statutes, you could favorite this. Now you can't favorite these chapters, but you would favorite the whole title. So this is going to be true for any source you find on Lexis. Another way to favorite would be if I was looking at that Florida again. If I have the flogger here, so clicking on here is taking me to the table of contents, but if I click on the source itself, the name, it's adding it to my red search box. So now I want to search within the Florida jurisprudence, but I'm also given the option here to save it as a favorite. So the star appears as well. So anytime you're choosing anything within this box, I can set it as a favorite. So if I wanted to save, Florida cases as a favorite, I could do that. Florida, category of cases, favorite. So that's how that star works. Notifications, this corresponds with the box of folders. So anytime someone is adding something to my folder, that's when notifications will appear. This blue dot here tells me that something new has happened. There's been a change. What about alerts? Alerts seem to be a topic of interest I've seen in training groups here. Alerts can be based on topics of interest, so legal topics of interest. For example, I have best interest of the child. So when you're running searches, you're going to see these little bell symbols next to it, and it's going to give you the option to set an alert. You can also set alerts for statutes. Maybe I want to monitor a statute for any pending legislation, or I want to monitor a House bill or a Senate bill to see any changes. You're going to see those alerts. You can also set alerts for cases. Maybe I want to see this case is on appeal. Those are all alerts. The alerts are going to work regardless of what state we look at. So I'm going to pull up a statute. I'm typing in here, Florida statute 9511, and I just have an F space S space with the number, and I'm going to search everything. So you can type in flaw stat in the number. It'll be a shortcut, or even F space S space will take you there. Now, usually it'll take you to the exact page of the statute, but for this particular statute, you'll see that one is effective October 1st, and the other is effective until October 1st. So Lexis is going to give you both versions. I'm going to click on the current version. So here's this alert. So this is when I'm just looking at a statute itself. Overview is if I want to maybe rename it or put a note of why I'm saving this alert. What I'm monitoring. So I'm monitoring for any pending legislation that may amend, repeal, or enact a change. For delivery, alerts can be up to 3 years. It's going to tell you a year at first, since that's a little more manageable. And for any of your alerts, you can choose online only. That's going to give you only when you're logging into Lexis Advance, where I'm going to have that blue dot. You can also choose to receive these via email. And when it comes to your email, you can choose the frequency and even the time of day to receive these. Lastly, when you receive that email, do you want it only when an update occurs, or every time the alert is run? So if you're doing it daily, do you want an email daily from Lexis regarding this alert? So different functions, as well as sharing them with others if you've done that legwork. So this is generally for the statute. You also have pending legislation over here. And I've heard that you guys have a pretty great way of monitoring bills and stuff internally. But we do have our pending bills within this, and you're able to set alerts here as well and choose what you want to monitor. For any of our bills, we also have, and this is going to be for the entire country, you're seeing here potentially what's going to be added. It'll also have what's going to be deleted, crossed out, if that's an option. And it'll tell you with our legislative outlook how far it's gotten. So here, this House bill only passed the first committee. And scrolling down, I'm able to see what was potentially going to be added. You also will have bill tracking. See what happened on each day. So this would be good on the outside of Florida, at least. Also for my statutes, when I'm looking at that current version, I have the archived codes here. So if I want to find the 25 prior years of the statute and compare them, you can do it by looking at the most recent version. For your statutes, you also have, you can jump down to the history, as well as the different annotations that are in here, as well as case notes, in which you could jump to any sections. So they will be organized if you need that. Also, something I guess to talk about now would be the fact that if you can access it on Lexis Advance and you can click on it, you've got it. If it's, you can't go out of plan on Lexis Advance. That's for our state and local government especially. So If it's there, you can get it, you got it. You will have this little news here. This is just briefly from Law 360. You can't click on to get the full text of these. On the bottom here is our customer support number. So that's that 5436862. So if you didn't have your notepad or my card, it's actually on the bottom of the page. So if you need help. As well as going to our More drop down here, we also have live support. So if you prefer a live chat feature, you can do that. As well as we have our feedback. So if there's improvements that you want to see on Lexis Advance to make it easier to use, such as just being able to favorite titles of the statutes, that was something that customers wanted to see different. If we get enough ticks against that, it's likely to be on our roadmap to hopefully make that change. So that's within our feedback. For those that are running searches, are we usually natural language searchers or terms and connectors? When you're doing natural language searching, you're casting a wider net. And when you're using terms and connectors, you kind of know where you're looking for. But those can adjust. So clicking on advanced search here is going to help me with my terms and connectors. But again, this red search box will recognize both. So jumping to advanced search, on this right-hand side are the most common connectors that people use. And this is kind of a helper template to try to construct terms and connector searching. So for example, under the section where it says this exact phrase, I'm going to type in breach of contract and press add. So it tells me that if I want to find that exact phrase, it's already put it in quotes for me. Or to say exclude these terms. So how about damages? Add. So it's I want to find a search of breach of contract and not damages, which I can't imagine that would be too many cases, but just how that template works here. Clicking on view all connectors and commands, it's going to give me the full list of available connectors and commands that we have on Lexis. And for example, clicking on, say, within the same paragraph or /p connector, it's going to tell you exactly how that works on Lexis. So here it'll find terms within the same paragraph, or Lexis deems that to be within 75 words of each other. So if you're wanting to find something within 2 paragraphs apart, I could do /150. So I could use the number connector instead to try to customize that. And down here it gives you the example of how to write it. How to work that. Also, from this page, I can also access Lexis Advance equivalents for Westlaw Next connectors. So as you're making that transition, seeing the differences between what you're currently using as a connector and what Lexis recognizes. The biggest one here is going to be the or. Right now you're typing, if you're using a space on Westlaw, that's reading it as an or. But on Lexis, a space is a space. If you want it to be liquidated or unliquidated, you have to actually type in the word or. So jumping back into my Lexis Advanced Research page, let's run a search. So I'm just going to run a search for illegal gambling. And this is normally going to say search everything off the bat. We're going to talk about our pre-search filters. So the first tab here is jurisdiction. I can choose as many of these as I want, or as little as I want, and just search everything. The main items here you'll see are going to be maybe Florida, and to include related federal content as well. And then at the bottom, you'll see to include non-jurisdictional content. So if I want to get back more national secondary sources in my results, this bottom button here will do that. So include non-jurisdictional content. The second box, or the second tab here, is category. So for category, if I don't choose any of these, they will all come back and I can toggle between them. So, or if I'm only looking for statutes and secondary materials, I can choose that from here as well. So it's up to you. For practice areas and topics, I used to practice family law. If I ran a search for something along the lines of domestic violence and I chose family law as my practice area and topic, I'm going to miss all the cases that would come back for domestic violence in the realm of criminal law. So you are going to, it's kind of more pigeonholing yourself from the get-go. I recommend leaving all these open. And then on the post-search filter, it'll have all the cases and tell you what they fall under. And then we can choose what we might want to filter to on the post-search end. Recents and favorites. This is just telling you what you recently looked in. So I did look in legislative bill history, and it gives me that second option to now go ahead and favorite it if I want to. Or I can unfavorite things as well. All right, so let's run this search for illegal gambling. So I get back 283 results. My results for my cases here are first sorted by relevance, but if you want to sort by court, highest, and date newest, you have those options here. I'm also looking at the full view. So the full view is going to give me this little overview. So I don't have to click on US v. Santos to read what that case is talking about. I have that overview. We also have a title view. So if you know what you're looking for, you can scroll through it quicker. In the realm of cases, I have some different options. These are my post-search filtering. They're on the left-hand side. The first one here is search within results. It's always best to start at the top and work down. So searching within results, if I wanted to add some additional terms here to throw that in, you can do that. And this will recognize natural language or terms and connectors. As opposed to if I start typing in this search box up here, it's running a brand new search. So that's how the two different boxes work. You'll also have it by court. So I can break it down into the 11th or the Supreme. If I click on Florida, it's going to narrow to just 83 cases. And Florida will further give me the options of appeals court or Supreme. If I click on appeals, and this is presumably where circuit court would also appear if there were cases from there or orders from there. The appeals court will give you the breakdown of the different DCAs. Now, if I chose the second DCA here, it's going to narrow to just those 13 cases. But if I wanted, say, the second and the third DCAs, I would click on select multiple. So whenever you see that, it's going to give you the option to select more than one. And from here, I can do just that. So now I'm going to get 24 results instead of that 13. So I went from 49 to 24. Next, you have a timeline. So the earliest case out of my 24 results was back in 1961. If I don't care about cases from that far back, I can use this timeline to actually scroll things over. It's also telling me that the most cases were probably around 1962. So that's where the peak was. You can also scroll it back. So maybe if a statute changed and you wanted to see cases dealing with an older version of a statute, you can use that timeline. Or even enter in an exact date. So I remember that case came out last March. I want to find it then. So you can use these exact dates. Like I said, everything is going to be in your plan that you can click on. You'll have reported versus unreported cases to filter here, as well as you'll see the different sources. Here's those practice areas and topics. So of my search results, they're in the realm of business and corporate, constitutional, criminal, and governments. And you can select multiple as well. You have it by attorney, by law firm, and even by judge, if you want to filter to any of those. I can even do a search where I want to find just this attorney's cases or just this judge's cases as well. This box keyword here, it's pulling up the most common words from your search results. So if you're looking for additional words to try to narrow down, you can look to keyword. We also have our statutes and legislation, our secondary materials. So with secondaries, you can see the breakdown by treatises, jurisprudence, maybe just law reviews, as well as selecting different jurisdictions, different sources, practice areas as well. For your briefs, pleadings, and motions, You're going to have that breakdown of just briefs, just pleadings, just motions, as you can imagine, as well as by court as well. If I'm clicking on just briefs, I'm going to check out this first brief. Whenever you're pulled up in this category, you'll see the option on this right-hand side under About This Document for the original source image. So this is how the document looks like when it's filed with the court. A lot of this information is pulled from our Pacer, or we own a product called CourtLink that pulls in documents from different states and different federal cases as well. So here in very bold is a petition for writ of cert. It's how it's filed with the court. Any questions on secondary sources or briefs, pleadings, and motions? Okay. Moving down here, we also have news. So I'm going to click on news. For the news, I can sort by date, newest to oldest, even. You'll see the first case here is from today. And if I wanted to monitor my illegal gambling at all, here's that option for an alert here. I can choose what I want to monitor. So in the realm of maybe just news, maybe legal news even. Or maybe every time it's mentioned in cases or statutes, it has those same delivery options. So for example, if you wanted just regular illegal gambling, you could set this as an alert. But if you wanted illegal gambling and not internet gambling, you could type that in as your regular search and have a more customized alert. So also for our news, we have it by publication type. So maybe I just want newspapers or blogs. A breakdown by subject, industries, geography, timelines. So this is way better than just searching Google for any of this stuff. This is your news. Also, you have Lexis Web, which is, again, better than doing a Google search. What it's doing here is these are all vetted websites, so they're trusted. The information here is also categorized. So if I want it as news or by government websites or professional law firms or blogs. So it's actually organizing the sites for you. And even finding websites, maybe just in Texas that deal with illegal gambling. So this is our Lexis Web. Even file formats. Maybe I just want a PDF on illegal gambling. I'm going to go ahead and pull up a case. So here's my case. You're always going to want to choose your new settings. So when you're logged into these IDs, they're brand new. They haven't chose any of how you want your formatting or your content to come back for these cases. So for printing, choose new settings as well as download. Once you select your settings, they're going to stick for the next time you go and do whatever that was. I selected download since I don't have a printer attached. Now I'm looking only at one case, but if I was looking at a result list, I could choose 3 documents and they would be all selected here. So that's just what selected documents means. For your basic options, you're choosing whether you want it as a PDF, a DocX, or a WordPerfect. And again, if you had multiple files, do you want them as one file or individuals? So a lot of options. Under your formatting, the first one here is a cover page. So the cover page is going to say, LexisNexis, Gabby Vero, downloaded Breed versus Jones at this day and time. The LexisNexis logo will appear on every page of your document. I'm not offended if you want to turn that off and save some ink. So feel free. Also, your first and last name will appear in the cover page and within the footer. If you're printing to a large printer and you want to make sure you got every one of your documents and no one steals it, you can feel free to put your name on it. But if you want to give this document to someone else, feel free to remove your name. You have options for your page numbering, font type and size, as well as your spacing and your different styles here. Under content specific options, this is going to tell you all the extra Lexis stuff. So the Shepherd signal, our head notes, terms, core terms, and the case summary. This is all Lexis added material. If you just want to print the case and have just the opinion showing, turn all of these off. Here's those dual columns. That's how it appears in the book, as opposed to the single. I'm going to go ahead and download. I'm getting a pop-up box that says processing delivery. If you don't have this box that pops up, you have a pop-up being blocked, and I'm using Chrome, so it usually appears here in my browser. I can't tell you how many emails or calls I get about people not being able to download or export because of a pop-up. It'll say delivery complete when I download. However, if I'm printing, it'll prompt me with the regular print screen that we have for Windows. So here's my document. I downloaded it as a Word. This is that really helpful cover page. Again, here is the LexisNexis logo. Here's my name in the footer of everything. My Shepherd signal. The core terms, case summary, head notes, all that Lexis stuff. Finally, the opinions on page 6. So if you want to cut it all out or cut out some of it, it's up to you under your content specific options. Back in the case, if I chose to email it, it's going to be the exact same options that are going to stick. Okay. Also, when we're looking at the cases, I can use go to jump to specific sections. So if I just want to get to my opinion, can jump straight to opinion. So they're organized for you. As well as if I want to get to the head notes or the LexisNexis head notes, can go through here. So the difference between the head notes on Lexis and West is that our head notes are not editorialized. It's actually taken from the language of the court. So if you're used to finding another word in a case that might be just in a head note on West, you won't find that on Lexis. So this is literally just what the court said. So they're reliable. Also with our head notes, you're going to see these little orange pages. These are our topic summary reports. So it tells me that when I hover over it. So for this case, it deals with procedural due process, double jeopardy, and attachment jeopardy. Those are the 3 main topics of Breed versus Jones per Lexis. And I can click on these topic summaries from the head note section, or I can go into about this document. So here again are my 3. I'm just going to click on procedural due process. I'm looking at procedural due process in the federal jurisdiction, but I also have options for other jurisdictions such as Florida. So Florida is a very high content state for Lexis, so there's a lot of material that we have. So here's procedural due process in Florida. I get the definition of it, the seminal cases, the elements, the statutes and rules, secondary sources, the burden of proof, and the standard of review. So these topic summaries are going to give you quick answers to these questions. You don't have to glean through cases, and you'll notice these in your head notes. These are actually searchable as a secondary material on Lexis as well. Jumping back to my case and my head notes. Now we're all used to narrowing by head notes, so I can actually shepherdize and find more cases that are citing to this head note. But if I'm down in my opinion, further down here, if I'm in the opinion and there are certain parts of the case where there might be a head note or there might not be, I can use a product that is patented by Lexis. It's called the Legal Issue Trail. And I can tell it to activate passages. So what this is doing is it's going to help me find additional cases based on these points of law within a case where I might not have a head note. So you'll see it's around maybe where I have a head note or maybe where I don't have one. So for example, let's say this portion of Breed versus Jones is what I needed, and I want to find more cases like that. I could take some words from it and run that as a brand new search, or I could try legal issue trail. So I'm going to click on my passage. Now that it has that little purple box around it, it's taking me to my selected passage up here, and if I scroll down farther, it'll tell me the following cases cited Breed versus Jones for that issue. So if I click on, say, this In Re Cross case, it's going to take me to the exact portion of In Re Cross where that one passage is lining up. So here, I'm looking at the case In Re Cross, and it led me to this passage where it says, in Breed, the court reiterated its remarks in Galt regarding the reality of the juvenile court system. So this is the one passage that's citing to Breed that's connecting those two cases together. Lastly, for our cases, I want to talk about Shepard's here. So this is your Shepard's preview box. It's giving you a little snapshot of the treatment of the case. If I'm looking at the case and I hover over the symbol, it's going to tell me, warning, negative treatment is indicated. So I want to find out why Breed versus Jones has that stop sign. It automatically takes me to my appellate history. And from the appellate history, I can see number 3 is in blue. This is the current case that I'm looking at. Here's my eyeglasses. It tells me I put it in a folder already. But if I wanted to look at maybe what happened at the appellate level or the circuit level, I can jump there or read the case on remand. So Shepard's appellate history will take me to other places related to Breed. That was the list view. Here's the map view. So if you like this analytic better, kind of gives you a timeline. And these are all links. If I want to get to the case on remand, I can just click it. So we have our red stop sign, and it's appearing in the realm of citing decisions. So I'm going to click on that. When I'm in citing decisions, on this left-hand side is all my different analysis breakdown. So there's only one case that gave the warning, one case questioned Breed. We have caution, positive, and a really great breakdown of the different neutral treatments by the courts. You're also going to have a breakdown by the federal versus state level, by discussion, by head notes, and a timeline again. I can even search within results and add some additional terms here to try to narrow down those cases. But I have a warning, so I want to find out what does that warning mean. Clicking on warning, Breed versus Jones received this red stop sign from one case and one case only, and that's Barker versus Estelle out of the Ninth Circuit. If I'm not in the Ninth Circuit, Barker won't apply to me, and Breed versus Jones could still be a good law or good case. Right here, it'll tell me superseded by statute as stated in. Here's that red color again. And here on page 1439 of Barker is where it's talking about Breed. Now, I'm looking at that list, but again, we have a grid for Shepard's. This grid view will give me analysis by court. So here's the Ninth Circuit. Here's that Barker case, and I can click on it here. But it's telling me how the different circuits treat Breed as well as the different states. So positive, neutral, they're citing it. As well as if I scroll down further, I have analysis by date. So here's 2016. There's still some positive treatment. Courts are still citing Breed. And if I scroll left, back in 1990 is when Barker happened. So that one case. So Breed versus Jones has that red stop sign, but it's not necessarily bad law. And you could actually print these. You can get a printer-friendly view of this grid if you wanted to see that analysis printed out. Other citing sources, this is treatises, law reviews, any statutes, all talking about Breed if you need more context, as well as a table of authorities. So everything Breed relied on if you wanted to read those cases. Also, with any of these cases, when you're reading them, before I print or download, I can always highlight them. And if I let go, it gives me the options to highlight these sections, add an annotation that I can choose to have it print out. I can just add this one portion of this case to a folder. Maybe I just want to save this point of law. or I can even copy it. So it gives you the options. Click on Copy Advanced. But you can choose your the formatting of the citation. So I needed to throw this into a Word document. So here I can choose to copy that citation as a hyperlink or not. You could do copy and close and throw that into a Word document. So for anything within this. If I highlighted the document on my screen, I could print it out or download it, and it'll have those highlights and what I liked about it. That's the same for cases, statutes, treatises, anything on Lexis. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining me today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, or if I can help you setting any favorites or transfer anything, let me know. But thank you so much, and have a great afternoon.